TF2 is very well known for its hats, and along with those hats you have unusual effects. They are like the particle effects that appear on or around your hat for anybody who is clicking on this video who hasn't played the game before. So my Hong Kong code, for example, has the Scorching Flames effect on it, which is the green fire that you can see. You also get these kinds of effects on unusual taunts as well, which work a little bit differently in that you only see them while you're actually doing the taunt, but the idea is basically the same. And finally, there are unusual weapon effects. Now, these appear on your weapons while you're holding them out, and these are far more limited than all of the other effects, with there being only 4 effects total for you to choose from. However, the amount of versatility that these unusuals have make them very desirable for a lot of people. Now, I mentioned that there were a total of 4 effects before that you could choose from with these unusual weapons. And while that is technically true, there's actually only 3 unusual effects you can get on any new war paint that gets added into the game. You have the cool effect, the hot effect, and isotope. However, there was one more effect that was in the game for a short time and then got discontinued and taken out of all future crates. And that unusual effect was called Energy Orb. It looks incredible and easily would have been the highest tier unusual effect in the game without a question. But for some reason it got removed, and in this video I want to try and find out why. But before we get into it, a huge percentage of you guys who are watching the video right now aren't actually subscribed to my channel. If you want to see more stuff from me, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. It would make me very happy. Okay, so literally all I could find about Energy Orb was that it was a very glitchy effect when it was in the game. It was a really cool looking effect, easily my favorite. However, it was apparently so glitchy that a lot of the time the people who owned the Energy Orb affected weapons couldn't actually see the effect on their guns. It would randomly disappear and you would look like you're just holding another normal war paint, which isn't what you want if presumably you've either spent a lot of money on that weapon or you got lucky enough to unbox a war paint with it on. It would be super annoying if it randomly just decides to stop working. Now, the effect actually still exists in the game. I found out that Bearded Expense of all people has an energy orb weapon, and so I actually got to see it in game. And that made me a little bit disappointed that Valve never ended up fixing this amazing looking unusual effect and discontinued it instead. I would have loved to see a bunch of the newer war paints with this effect on it. However, I've realized that Energy Orb isn't the only glitchy, unusual effect. Like, sometimes they will all just kind of appear in your face and block your vision, but apparently Energy Orb was so much worse than that, and it would happen a lot more frequently than the other effects too, which isn't quite what you want. As well as that, Energy Orb is obviously a lot brighter than all of the other unusual effects, so having that in your face means you basically couldn't see anything. Another issue with this effect was that it was really hard to make it work and look good on the melee weapons in the game. Now, this effect came out in the Gunmetal update, which only had set skins for each weapon, but they didn't have any melee weapons. So obviously, if you don't have any melee weapons, you wouldn't make Energy Orb have to work with melee weapons because it's not going to be on one. So then by the time Tough Break came around and started adding in some war paints on knives and stuff like that, then it kind of got a little bit complicated for Valve. Apparently. But if they struggled so much making Energy Orb work normally on any of these sets of weapons that were already in the game, like these predetermined items, there's not a lot of variation between them. It was going to be a disaster once Tough Break came out, and then once all of these other updates came out that added even more war paints into the game for even more weapons. It was going to get out of control really quickly, and Energy Orb would have looked even more broken than it is now. I think it obviously would have worked, but Valve would have had to put quite a lot of time into fixing the effect and making it work and like resizing it for different weapons and all of that kind of stuff. Like, it would have been a lot of work, but I personally think for a lot of the TF2 players as well, it would have been worth that work. Energy Orb is such a cool looking effect. But if at the time it was going to take too much manpower and too many hours to fix it, it would have just been easier for them to remove it from the game entirely and not fix the items that already had it on. Which is probably the most Valve thing I think I've ever heard in my life. I found it really weird how there was really no information out there that I could find on Energy Orb. There's no TF2 wiki page on it that I could find. There isn't really anything from Valve that I could see about why they removed it. So figuring out what actually happened is really hard. But I'm not sure what else we expect from Valve at this point. This is literally the most stereotypically Valve thing ever. They've removed an effect and not given much information as to why they have done that. And then make it really hard to figure out anything else about it. Also, I can assume that since Energy Orb got taken out of the game, the effect itself got a lot more expensive, and since it was only in one collection of skins before it got removed anyway, that is even more limited than the other effects would be. And according to Backpack, the average price of a Energy Orb weapon is 150 keys. Now, obviously, some items could be worth a little bit more. Some items could be worth a lot less. And also, this is a backpack.tf estimate, so it could be way out. Or not. I'm not sure. What do you lot think about Energy Orb? Do you think Valve should have fixed it and kept it in cases so we could have it on all of these other weapons? Or do you think that maybe they made the right call in getting rid of it? I'd honestly love to see new unusual weapon effects come into the game anyway, even if they weren't Energy Orb. But I know that unusual weapon effects will be so much more effort to add in than any other unusual effect in the game for any other type of item. Making an effect work on every item that is in TF2 that has a skin sounds like a nightmare, but it would be so cool. And having even more options with war paints would probably sway me towards war paints over Australians, I genuinely think. For some reason, I was also genuinely concerned that these just didn't exist for some reason anymore, but there are people who still have them, and I'm not sure why I thought they were removed completely. That would have been a much bigger deal, and I would have remembered that. With that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. If you want to see more from me, then make sure you leave this video a like, and also subscribe to the channel if you're new. It would mean a lot, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.